It's like few seconds more.
Do you hear my kid at the background?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone. We have gathered here tonight to have this info session about the IEEE Region 8 Robot Championship. And tonight I have two special guests that will introduce themselves and speak more about this.
Hello, everybody. I am Conrad Attart. I am the chair of the Professional Education Activity, also the chair of the Computer Society in Malta, IEEE. And we are organizing together with a good team of passionate people about the subjects, the Robot Championship, which will be happening in Malta. It is for Region 8, therefore it's basically the opportunity for student branches to organize teams and be able to apply and come here in Malta to compete with 4 different games that we have planned for you. I am also the Deputy Dean of the Faculty of ICT, and I am very passionate about IEEE, STEM, and the different subjects related to data sciences and robotics. And this championship combines a lot of what I like doing, including organizing events to make this an event that you will remember. We have also an engineer who was a past roboteer in the Robot Championships that we organized in Malta. Hi, Lawrence. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And Lawrence has a lot of years of experience to speak about this particular type of championship. Well, the games were always evolving until, with a lot of help from Lawrence, we have planned these 4 games, which we're going to discuss a bit more in this information session. But Lawrence, tell us about you, and actually, from where did you start? How did you be part of IEEE? You were part of the student branch way back, but
yes. So first of all, thank you very much for having me over. It's a pleasure for me to be part of this, especially after quite a gap of years since we had our last Robot Championship. I had the pleasure and the opportunity to actually be one of the first in Malta participants to actually participate in the Robot Championship back around 11 years ago now. So quite a long time ago. Well, my background is also as mechanical engineering, so I feel also that I've managed to branch out a little bit into IEEE, mostly since they are mostly strongly suited for the electrical side of engineering. So I also felt that I've been welcomed regardless of the engineering background. And regarding this particular event, I am very grateful that it happened back 10 years ago because it helped me put into practice that I had learned from university and even some of my craft skills. And it's also something that I treasure very dearly from my university years. I don't really remember myself studying for exams. I'd rather remember myself building and figuring out how to build a robot and speaking to professors to make such a project happen. And I hope that after this meeting today, that will inspire maybe other students from all over Region 8 to actually take on such a challenge, and build a robot of their own.
I was lucky to host your robot here in our garage when we were preparing for some of the recordings that we will be sharing with you later on during the coming weeks. And I must admit, it not only has functionality and still works, but it has been well taught aesthetically for the type of games you use to compete with. So it's as if it's ready to start competing again. That's something which
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
so it's a good sign. It's a good sign because normally, as you can imagine, these type of competitions, this type of championship, the robots do not necessarily stay as, unfortunately, the original condition. Although I must admit, and Lawrence, you were one of the people that during the focus groups that we had organized spoke that ideally the games will be very competitive, show a certain amount of skill, but as much as possible, we try to, as much as possible, safeguard the robot status so that we can maximize throughout the day and a half that we have planned for this type of competition, and you can participate even more until you reach the final game, which is,
exactly,
I think, the most complex. No, but we'll speak about the games. I immediately came back to the main important links and also some important facts. We hope to get all the applications from Region 8 and all the student branches by the 1st of June, but do still keep in touch with us if there might be some challenges to submit by the 1st of June. And we would like to recognize a lot of not only sponsors, but organizations. They are not all here yet because we're finishing off some more agreements, but there are going to be even more key players that are contributing to make this championship one to remember. Particularly Kassar Shipyards, a particular organization who from day one, now almost over a year and a half, have been our close partners because they are the partners which gave us the place so that all the wishes that came out from the different focus groups and planning to make the arena address what we wish from the arena, this is being done at Kassar Shipyards, which are a local organization that, as the name implies, they restore big ships, but they dedicated a space for us to build an arena which is suitable for such a championship. Region 8, the professional education activities, SAC, where Region 8 SAC are the protagonists, because the students are the protagonists of this championship. The main section, IEEE Malta, who we have been saving up so that we'll have also contributing through funds, even through Region 8, to make this championship a one to remember, but most importantly, a learning experience. These are the links you should keep in mind. The IEEEmalta.org/robot championship, one of the tabs. So all you need to remember is IEEEmalta.org. We will be updating and refreshing our website in the coming weeks too, but there's a lot of information, including the rules and regulations. There is the Robot Championship, IEEEmalta.org, our email, or you can email me directly at conrad.attart@IEEE.org. And also the application, which is the Robot Championship application. Keep that in mind because that is the link that you will be used as from IEEEmalta.org. So Robot Championship application.IEEEmalta.org, which is the link you want to use to apply for this competition. But to summarize most of the stuff, I don't know if you had the opportunity to see the short clip that we have planned, which is basically a summary of the key aspects that give you a bit of the feeling for the robot championship. I will play it quickly, then we will have time to discuss and share with you all this information. Oh, and that was fast. Okay, so that briefly gave you a summary of what the Robot Championship is about. There will be more clips coming over in the weeks that we will be once we'll be receiving the applications. We have planned a lot of different aspects that will support you through this voyage in preparation for the Region 8 Robot Championship that will be held in Malta. This will be held in autumn, and we will be clearly telling you about the dates once the applications have been received. We are targeting during the month of November, December, so that's what we are hoping that this event will happen, and we're going to this will be happening in a venue where it will only host the arena, a 6x6 meter arena, but it will also have the opportunity to have guests that will be supporting the different robots. So the first part of the championship will be the presentation of the robots and showing what the robots can do, and you can brand the robot, because we are going to be launching as we go by throughout the months which will be just before the event, what type of awards we are going to give. So the awards will not be only limited to how well you have performed in the championship, but also there are going to be other aspects which are key, which are very important to this type of championship. Just to mention some, we are promoting the design, the build, and compete aspects that you would need to be able to participate in the Robot Championship. But there are these important elements which include teamwork, STEM communication, with the opportunity to involve your student branches, not only the team, but the student branch can support you with the STEM communication, where you can organize activities, at least two, to share with the communities which are from your local section about STEM and about the use of robots to get more and more students excited about the STEM subjects, engineering, to choose engineering and ICT, among others. Problem solving, we cannot say that, and probably Lawrence will highlight some things as we discussed, but not only today, but in the coming days with a number of clips that we have planned with different roboteers that have participated in the past. Entrepreneurship, which is a key aspect. We're going to have an award which will be addressing your ability to budget, to prepare, to plan, to present it in a short report, but basically a business plan which will make you already acquire the necessary soft skills that are needed with such professions. So we are recognizing this effort, and we are going to also have an award which is related to entrepreneurship aspects, and with the entrepreneurship committee, which has been now established as a committee through the entrepreneurship initiative, we will be having talks which will allow you to learn more about this. We're going to have talks about everything, discussions where you can clearly learn, and we will help you with all different aspects to prepare yourself for this championship. Creativity, and I can assure you, here I have not only had the opportunity to meet the robot that Lawrence had designed way back 11 years ago, but I have a number of robots, and I can say that every robot has its own identity, has its own strengths, has its own skills. None of them are the same. And the creativity here is not only the way the robot appears, but it's the beautiful thinking and the passion and that is put to make it, to solve problems, to give it that competitive advantage, so that during the championship you excel. So creativity, I think, is something we are going to recognize, and obviously we want you to win and to strive to achieve, which is a key aspect, to make it not only to get the robot designed and built, but to be here in Malta to compete and enjoy this beautiful island and what it has to offer while participating in this championship. I can't mention all names, and I tried to get photos and to create, but there's so many people. Now these are the 4 main committees, but there are much more people involved that are going to be supporting us with professional skills. So we are also encouraging you to find a mentor that will be there to help you. Not only, Lawrence mentioned it already, it was an opportunity not only because at that time he recalls so clearly what he needed to go through to achieve and design the robot that he used for the championship, but it was also an opportunity to meet professional people and also sometimes family because they inspire, but people that are close to you to find materials where you least expect.
Exactly.
And to learn so much about how to make this robot unique. But so many people are behind this, and I don't want to forget anybody.
To add on this, Conrad, it's a perfect excuse to bring up a discussion, maybe even an informal discussion with your professors at university and possibly even your future employers. I remember, especially during my first interviews after I graduated, usually during the interview they ignore all the technical things in my CV and they be like, oh, so tell us about this robot wars issue and tell us about your experience. And it actually lightens up the mood of the interview and it helps to build rapport with anyone you're talking to much faster and much easier than if you're discussing, I don't know, 2 technical terms, because then the passion and the creativity that you were talking about starts coming up, because it's incredible how these robot championships have been happening for such a long time, but still each robot, even on an international level, have its own character, have its own unique abilities. It's something, you know, that your character as a builder comes out into into your project without even realizing it. You know, it's something very, very nice to talk about, and like I said, an opportunity to open up conversations with anyone that you would like to open up to.
And I must admit, I've been I've been working and I had my own companies and I did interviews and I was even responsible for different big organizations. And I must admit, when we met people that are enthusiastic, that participated not only in their educational part, and a lot of the students do really well in the education, the academic part, but then they participate with such an initiative and a number of initiatives that are organized even by IEEE. I was judging the startups a couple of months ago, part of the entrepreneurship, pitching ideas, and I was seeing how you go about these things. These are all valuable opportunities. So the Robot Championship is something to have on your CV, because it's not just something that you are putting down just to list the item, but there's going to be a nice story and an excitement and skills that are motivated by what you are actually preparing that will make you and distinguish you in the future, even over the years. And this was really felt when we sent an email. Remember, Lawrence, we had invited people like you to participate in the focus group. And I must admit, everybody made their best to find time, and they're still there sharing advice, because some of the championships happened. We had about 9 championships and all in the past, but obviously every championship improved. And now we have the opportunity to use the experiences of those that participated and do our utmost to invent and create a better environment that will host such an event. But I will go to the frequently asked questions, and these are a few. I know there are going to be much more that will be asked once the applications and the teams, and we're going to be there available for you to organize such with the support of SAC, who are always there, not only with the Robot Championship, with so many initiatives such as the Congress, which takes so much time to organize, and other good initiatives, which I won't list here, but this is part of it. We will be helping you out. And some of the questions that have been asked are where it will be held, and this is going to be in Malta. How long the event is going to be? It's going to be a day and a half of events, but you have to be here before Okay, you need to set up, settle down, register. There are a number of aspects that we're going to check to make sure that the robot qualifies for the championship. How to fund traveling? You can approach your sections. A lot of the sections have already showed that they're going to support you with covering the traveling funds of not more than 3 members, which is the maximum amount of members that can participate for this championship. Where shall we book the hotel? We are managing that, and we hope that unless we are going to accept more than the amount of applicants that are planned to come, we hope to cover the costs for most of the people that are going to attend this event. But this will be finalized after all applications have been submitted and the committee goes through them and ensures that you have understood what is expected. Do you need visa in some countries that are coming from different places? Yes, from the European region, we are part of Europe, so visa is not much of an issue, but for people outside, those students from outside Europe will probably need a visa, and we'll do our utmost to support you with that. From where can I access the rules? So here there are the links. From our website, there are all the important things you need to have, very detailed and well taught regulations, which have been discussed over and over again. But the final aspects, particularly related to the games, can only be established once we have the applications. So although most of the rules and regulations are going to be valid, like with the type of robot that needs to be built, the type and what the size of the robot, and how the weight of the robot, those are going to be fixed. But other things which are related to the games, they might be fine-tuned slightly so that the championship will give as much as opportunities to the robots to compete for during that day and a half. But most importantly, there will be we'll understand also, as we discuss with the applicants their concerns, and there will have some time to clarify or to improve some aspects of the game. So in essence, the games are going to be those that we establish, but there might be some fine-tuning to do depending on the feedback we get from the applicants in the process. So that's the idea why those are not going to be the final ones. When we establish the final regulations, those will be published and available for everybody to be as much as possible in the context of what you are planning to design for the championships. How do I fill in the application? So the application is giving you the opportunity to show and to understand what is needed for the championship. So each and every question, and particularly the description of the form, is there for that reason. The only thing we would like to ask you is to always get to inform the section and to get the support from the section to cover the traveling funds before you actually apply. You can also, there are sometimes teams that get sponsors or decide to fund everything themselves. That is also doable. But if you plan that you need to get funds from the section, therefore make sure you simply get that acknowledgement and submit it in the forms when you upload the application, to show us that the section knows about the team and is ready to support. Even the student branches can support this. We know that there are a number of funds due to COVID which were not used, so this is an opportunity for you to request support for traveling and, if possible, even for your stay. Can we contact companies to fund and prepare the robot? Of course, it's part of your experience. In fact, we are going to organize talks of how you should pitch that and ask companies. And most importantly, companies are not only good to maybe give you some of the funds most of the time and to sponsor your robot, always acknowledge that in every aspect of the championship, but it is also they're also there to give you skills and resources. Okay, Lawrence had mentioned earlier on that it's an opportunity to reach the industry and even to create some shapes or designs or type of materials, whether it's aluminum or stainless steel or anything that you're using, you probably find companies in the area where you come from that can support you in preparing the robot, and we encourage that because it's part of the experience that you can gain as part of the robot championship. So a summary of key aspects, you can read them from the document we have shared with you. It's going to be held in a 6x6-meter arena. Lawrence had kindly created this 3D drawing, which we're all the time using to make sure our measurements fit. But when we design, it's one thing. Then when we start getting things together, but the designs help us so that everybody can visualize better what we have in mind. We have not more the robot at any time with any add-on that you are going to create, which can be removed and changed depending on the game. It's up to you. You can use one for all the 4 games, or you can use design specific features, add-ons that give you the competitive advantage for every game. The robots cannot be larger than 80 centimeters by 80 centimeters, so that's the maximum size. Not more than 3 members, but you can have 1 mentor. We do not cover any costs relating to mentors, but we do our utmost when we can to cover the hotel costs of the members that will be staying here in Malta, of not more than 2 nights. Members of the student branches can participate, or past members that have just finished their studies in the previous scholastic year. So what does it mean being a member of a student branch? It could be an undergrad or postgrad or coming from any sort of course. If you are qualified and registered as a student branch, you can apply. If you have just finished your program, your studies the previous year, you can also apply to be part of this championship. But also always register as being a member of IEEE in one way or another, because we will need that goes being a student branch or not, as long as you are in the 1 year just after you have finished your degree programs. And it's 1.5-day competitions. And this will lead us to the games, and I will have time to drink a bit of coffee while Lawrence, kindly enough, will be giving you a brief overview of the games we have planned for the Robot Championship. Thank you, Lawrence.
So thank you, Conrad. So like Conrad has already explained, the only thing so far that most likely might be subject to change is the organization of how the tournament is split, depending on how many participants will be actually taking part of the championship on the day. This is obviously like if you have a certain amount, we can skip to a knockout phase directly, or if we have quite a significant amount of applicants, and that's what we're hoping for. Just like you have in the normal Football World Cup tournament, you have a qualifying stage where maybe the robot teams will be split into groups. Between them, they will have like some matches that go on. Depending on their performance, they will gain the right amount of points that might actually take them on to the next phase, which is the knockout phase of the tournament. Of course, a knockout phase is self-explanatory. Basically, the winner from each match will get to move on, while the loser, unfortunately, will have to take a step aside, and that will be them that will be their work for the tournament. Now, of course, we're gonna still keep in mind that since most of you will be traveling and going through all the hardship to make it to the tournament, that you get to use your robot as much as possible, considering the limited amount of time. But again, these details can be fine-tuned once we know the exact number of participants. For now, because it obviously will make a difference if you have 110 participants. So we will know, can actually give more details about this later on. The idea is that as you go through the tournament, the challenges within where the robots will be having their matches will start getting a little bit more and more challenging up until to the final match, which should be like a free-for-all match, so to speak. And we will be talking about this now step by step. So the first game would be like the time of fall, but I think we can move on to the next slide. So this is basically a fancy way of saying tug of war, so to speak, where the robots will be actually tied together, and the test of strength, mainly from this test of strength and torque, is what actually gives the winning robot the edge for this one. Because if you manage to pull your opponent over the edge, you get to win this simple matchup. And of course, the details are listed on the slide. So as we go through it, like the rules are, the players start the game tied to each other and equidistant from a pit/fall. So similar to a popular movie series you've seen recently, perhaps, where you'll have both robots elevated from the ground, and you actually have to try to prevent from falling into a pit or a fall. The next point will be when the game starts, a timer begins. Both players need to try to pull their opponents off over the edge. The player that succeeds wins the match. As soon as a player falls, the timer stops. No add-ons. So in this match, there will be no add-ons that you can use, like ramps or spinners. This is purely testing the driving force of the robots for this match. The game ends whenever one of these criteria is met. Either X amount of minutes pass since the start, to be defined after the full championship is drawn, of course. And this will be enforced prior to the event. So the length of the match, again, depends mostly on the number of participants for the tournament. Whenever a player manages to pull the opponent off the edge, obviously the game will stop, as the winner who have pulled the opponent over the edge is obviously the victorious one. So this is quite a simple match. So maybe we can move on to the next game. Conrad, please. So for the second game now, here we have a little bit more of a combination of not just pushing or pulling force, but also maneuverability and speed. Now, so the objective of this game is a red player scores red weights respectively by dragging and dropping them into their respective corner pits. So you'll either be the blue corner or the red corner. If you are the red corner, the weights you should focus on are the red, and vice versa. The blue corner focuses on the blue. Now, the weights will be at different intervals. So they usually start, we'll try to get weight sets, and usually they start at 1.25 kilograms up to maybe even 20. We have to see the maximum, but that's I believe that will be the maximum weight, as it's the same weight of the maximum limit of your robots. So if you design your robots similar to ants, ideally it will be able to push a heavier weight than its own. The idea is that for each weight you push into your red corner, so you drive your robot about and drop your weights into your corner, you get points. So for a 1.25 kilogram weight, you get 1.25 points. The exact weight sets for the game will be defined closer to your friends, of course, like we said. This also depends on the number of participants, but the gist of the game will remain the same. Now, as you also may notice, the heavier weights will be placed further away from your corner, while the lighter weights will be placed closer to your corner. The reason is that we're going to try to reward effort. So it's much more effort to go for the heaviest weight, which is the farthest from your corner pit, rather than the lightest weight, which is the closest to your pit. So this will require some strategy. Perhaps before you actually make yourselves to the event, you get the time to try out your robots and see how fast and how strong they are to be able to push weights, and strategize accordingly. Now, there are some obstacles that you have to be careful, because if you just go and pull all the weights into your pit, that is not really an ideal strategy, as if you score the opposing weights. So if I'm a red player and I score blue weights into my red corner, those weights count as negative points. So you have to be careful as well to avoid the blue weights and go for the weights of your own color. So if we go through some details of the of the event. The game ends either after one of the player falls into the pit. So if you're not really a good driver and mistakenly drive yourself into the pit, and believe me, it happened in the past. Unfortunately, your lack of skill will work against you, and that would mean that your opponent should be rewarded by actually winning the match simply because you are not up to the right skill required to keep the match going.
This makes it important that they find time to choose even between the members who has the best skill to drive the robot. So it's not just about building robots. Something very important is the skill to maneuver and to get the robot depending on the competition. Am I right?
Yes, and please do not underestimate this for any future participants. I mean, it's fun, but if you're not used to remote control cars, you might find it a little bit, you need some getting used to realize that, because you actually have to think as you're into the robot as the driver's seat. So ideally you finish your robots as early as possible, of course, and actually get to do some practice.
Well, they can also try, and until they finish the robot, dedicate time to use other, maybe a remote control cars or something.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's a good idea as well.
Yeah, as well. I know.
In fact, I was lucky because when I happened to, before one of my hobbies was to drive methanol powered remote control cars, and that experience actually helped me with knowing how to maneuver my robot a little bit better. So yes, it could be actually a good idea to get a remote control car, to even a small one, just to practice the idea of moving the car and around. So either if one of the players falls into the pit, the game will end, or after a certain amount of minutes since the start, this will also be defined closer to the championship, the date. The player with the most points scored wins the match. So, however, the game ends unless you actually push yourself into the pit. If the time has passed, or let's say a certain amount of time has passed and the weights are still standing in the arena, the player who has scored most weights actually wins the match. The game ends after, so if a player manages to score all the available weights in time, so basically if you're the blue player, you manage to score all the blue weights and there are no more of your weights on the arena, they can move on to attempt to drop their opponent in their pit for 100 points or in the opposing pit for 0 points, and the game ends. So you have an option here. So let's say I'm the blue player and I've managed to score all of my weights. Now I have an option. I can either just sit by and wait for my opponent to score his own weights, or I can actually speed up ending the game by using my opponent as a weight and scoring him into my own blue corner. And with that, I get an extra 100 points. Or since normally the opponent will be closer to his corner, you can actually push him into the pit, simply to end the game. Now, basically, this is a strategy to prevent your opponent from gaining too many weights. And this can help to also classify qualification into the next rounds. So it could be a strategy to actually stop your opponent from scoring weights or not. So it will always be up to the participants at the time.
So here I will stop you a bit because we had some questions, and it gives you some time to take some breath as well. And so basically, there is no registration costs. It's very important that the application is filled as best to your knowledge, and all the information that you request is put in the application. The part that we have is support, which covers some of the, depending on how many applicants apply, the hotel with which you are staying. And we ask you to request funding for traveling from the sections, or the student branches, depend if they have some funds which they did not use. When it comes to the robot, as part of the experience, we encourage you to pitch the idea to local industries from your own country, and you can actually ask them to support you in kind, maybe in type of elements that you need to set up your robot, or if you can to get finance from there. We are not covering, because all robots have their own budget, all robots have their own resources. So as part of this exercise, in fact, we have an award for that, for your ability to pitch your idea and to address that. Then obviously you can be able to get recognized for this award. So we'll continue answering questions at the end of the presentation. Now Lawrence can continue describing the games we have planned for this championship.
I'm actually very interested, pleased that we're having such questions regarding the development and the structure of the robot. This is somehow that another opportunity that this event actually gives the roboteer to actually figure out and problem solving, not just the technical aspects that usually university focuses on, but also the real life problems on who's interested into my project, who can help me out, what's out there, what's in my region that can help me. You know, like these are all problems that you need to solve. And even when you step into the industry or once you graduate, these problems keep coming up. Like, and that's why networking, which is also a product from this event. So make friends, even with other teams, network. Trust me, the communication you make between yourselves, I mean, all right, maybe you won't discuss the secrets of your robot, fair enough, because it's a competition after all, but still remain friends, you know, like have a nice peer-to-peer communication, because people who you will be the future professionals in the industry. So in 2015,
some of them are much friends, Lawrence, that they actually, some of them coming from two different teams remain so much friends that they became a couple, and today they got married, and they're abroad working on a very exciting startup related to robots. That's how much the dynamics of the team works out. So I think it's a good advice you just said.
I mean, you get to meet with other people, you know, so let's not forget that, you know, in engineering, it's not just the technical stuff. That's just, you know, that's just the hard stuff that we actually go to university to learn in a structured manner. But at the end of the day, you still need to deal with people while you're a student and even after. And like I said, maybe in 10 years' time, you will be the section heads of other companies. So you create these contacts, and knowing people actually will help you solve the problems sometimes more than knowing the technical hard information. Okay, so enough of that point, at least for now. So
let's move on to the next game.
I think it was the last point that I needed to say. Yes, for this game, active add-ons will not be allowed. So if you are planning to have any spinners or moving ramps or any, or I don't know, swinging hammers, some sort, for this game, you won't be allowed to use them. So this is mostly just to push around weights and maneuver around your opponent and so on. Okay, so next game now. Okay, so this is what we call the death clock. Now, here we're having another combination now. So before we only started off with basically strength, power, which was the time of 4. The second game, we introduced another element, which is maneuverability. So you don't only have to be strong, you also have to be maneuverable and fast. So if you manage to put down your weights before your opponent, you are at an edge to end the game before he actually gets to do his own thing. Now on the third game, you're actually gonna face your opponent directly. So you're interacting with your opponent directly. And the rules go as follows. The objective is to control random areas until the opponent's death clock runs out of time. So by random areas, we mean that the idea is that there will be certain areas in the arena, and as time goes by, an area pops up. Now, when the area pops up, both players need to compete to control the active area at the time. So by active area, we mean, like, if you look at the image there, the current active area, not to confuse anyone, is the center yellow circle. A player controls the area while having most of the robot inside the circle. This state, most of the robot inside or not, will be defined by a referee assigned to the task. So for this one to actually judge who is mostly in or not, the idea is to have a referee, and they will judge by who is most actually occupying the area. It's basically a similar game to King of the Hill. So as an example, the red player, as you see in the image, is currently controlling the area as most of the robot is within the yellow circle. The blue player does not control the area, even though some of the robot is in the area and the majority is out. As soon as a player controls the area, a referee triggers the timer on the opponent's death clock, counting downward. So basically, both robots will start with the same amount of time, still have to be defined again, because of depending on the number of participants. And if the red is controlling the area, the death clock of the blue robot starts counting down. When neither opponent controls the area, both players' clocks freeze. So that won't really do much effect. The referee triggers the respective death clock once a player controls the area again. Now, the game, of course, will last a certain amount of time. So by the end of that amount of time, the person with the most time on his death clock actually wins. Or if you manage to actually kill off the opponent by having his timer running out, you'll actually be the winner of this match. So in this one, you'll have pushing, pulling the opponent, trying to actually control. The aim of the game is to actually dominate the area. There will be different strategies that you can apply because the area will be moving around in a random manner. So maybe you'd rather move around your opponent hoping for a random area to come up in your area rather than facing directly, or you want to be more of a go-getter and simply try to remove your opponent from the area.
The next game, which is the final game, the hanging hazard.
Yes.
We named it hanging hazard, but I leave it up to you.
Well, yes. All right. So this one, the idea now is to try to put in all elements into the game. So this is more of a free-for-all, but there is still a strategic task that comes with it. By what do you mean by free-for-all? So you'll have the opponents actually maybe even bashing at each other. So it's like a rugby match, so to speak. But that is not the real main aim of the game. The main objective would be to move gumbox, which will basically be like an object, as you see there. Now, a gumbox is an object that only has 1 point of stabilizer, how it stabilizes, unlike a ball. So the idea is to have this object. Yes, like you shown the presentation there. The idea is to score these gumbox into your own pits. So when the game starts, several gumbox are dropped in the arena, one at a time. So similar to maybe a table soccer approach, where you have the ball, the gumbox now instead of a ball actually dropped into the arena. And there will also be some hazard, which is basically a hanging weight above the arena. These act as an arena hazard for both robots. So this is still under development, but the idea is that the arena now will be interacting with you as well. So far, the arena has been mostly passive, except for the previous game where the areas pops up. But in this game, the arena now actually can hit back at you. So the idea is to have weights hanging from the ceiling of the arena. And like a pendulum, the harder you hit, the harder it hits back. So that might actually now bring in your skills of maneuverability, strength, armor, and the idea to actually be attentive to what's going on around you, because now you don't just have your opponent coming to get you, but also the weights hanging from the ceiling.
And to make it
all effective.
That doesn't mean that because we put those circles representing the hanging weights, that they will be symmetrically put as they're seen in the diagram. Just to make it clear, they can be hanged in different places depending on how the structure of the final structure of the arena will be.
Exactly. it's important to point out that these are mostly just to give you an idea of what you will be actually facing. Perhaps more detailed ideas will be coming out, but there is an element of surprise to the events as well. So, of course, like we're saying, the idea, we're only here to share what the idea for the, on how, because it's important for the participants to know what they should be designing their robots against. And as you can see, even though you have 4 different games, every add-on is just a basic add-on onto your robot. So you still need to have a strong robot to push, but not just front and back. Ideally, you have to have him maneuvering around. So hence the second game. And you also need to have some sort of strategy. You don't just go into a game without any strategy. Ideally, come up, all right, this is my idea. The plan is to go for the weights, start with the largest or with the smallest. So this is all, everybody has to come up with their own strategies on how to solve these problems that we are currently throwing at you for you to win the championship.
Very good. Thank you very, very much, Lawrence. We're almost towards the end of this information session. I'd ask question which I would like to understand more is, what is the minimum number of elements that can make up a team? And basically, minimum is 1 member, right? Because that's the member that can come for the event and participate. So that's the minimum. The maximum is 3, that's for sure. But the minimum is 1 member, but ideally, we encourage teams to be at least 2 or 3 members, because the teamwork and the approach that can help be done to prepare for the robot and to prepare yourself for the championship with all the diverse skills that are needed. That is obviously a contribution when you have a team that is behind every robot that is going to be designed. One thing I would like to remind you again, as part of the STEM aspect of this championship, the student branch members, even particularly those that are responsible for the education or STEM initiatives within your region. I know, being a chair now for over a year, I have followed some really good activities and efforts being done in STEM in our region. Well done and thumbs up for all the efforts that you're doing. There are a lot of skilled people. You can approach them and you can work together to organize the 2 STEM events related to the robot championship, which obviously the topic needs to be related to robots and the robot that you are creating. And most importantly, don't forget, you can make good use of the funds which are available through the Try Engineering Month, which hopefully this year will be launched once again, like last year, which will give you up to $250 that can be used for the STEM program. So there, if you are getting or involved in creating the events during the month of November, there is the Try Engineering Month. Don't forget to submit your applications. If you need help, we will be supporting you too, because we'll have information sessions related to each and every initiative related to the Robot Championships in the future. If you have more questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us, to email me and our team. As I said, a lot of people that are making this championship even more exciting. We're just finalizing another organization that is believing in the Robot Championship, that will be helping us to create a very effective, interesting programs related to this championship and supporting us to make the event even more exciting on the day. So thank you for joining us for this information session, for SAC and for the great things that are happening through the student branches all over the region, and the committee of SAC, which is organizing so many things. And I hope that I'll be meeting you in the Student Congress, which is happening later on this year, so that I can even hear more ideas on how we can make professional and education activities more relevant. The Robot Championship is one of them, empowering the students, both with the pre-university and with industry, and the continuous need to be in touch with industry. And we know, I can say from first-hand experience, when we meet the industry, they say, can we participate? Can we be part of the robot championship? And hopefully we'll have the opportunity in the future. Yes, why not? That will extend this also to industries that are engaging with IEEE, engaging with you students and with all different OUs to also, if they want, participate and organize a team as one of the team building, we call it, no, of a company and organization to be part of the IEEE family in the future. So thank you once again. Thank you, Lawrence, for so much contribution and experience
It's my pleasure.
of the past that you share. Sometimes you spend even long nights trying to update regulations and discuss, or in my garage where we be trying to create the video clips, which we'll be sharing with you in the future. But we really appreciate it, and all the team which are not present here, but they also work hard because of to make this event happen. Okay, so we can finish off the information session. If there are more questions, you have already shared some, but if there are more, even after the session, you're more than welcome to share them with us, either directly conrad.attard@ieee.org or using the Robot Championship email that we have, robotchampionship@ieeemalta.org. Thank you very much. We'll be in touch